This is genuinely insane. After the craziness of the NBA trade deadline, of the actual moves and all of the speculation, we are now getting reports from very, very credible sources saying that Kevin Durant was open to joining this Miami Heat team at the NBA trade deadline. I'm here to break down all of the new information that we have on this episode of Heat Digest. But first, before we get to the blockbuster news, remember, if you're part of the 85.5% currently watching this video, not currently subscribed to the channel, and you want to stay up to date on everything Miami Heat, scroll down, click the subscribe button. We do appreciate all the love and support, so thank you guys so very much. But now let's get to it and break down. Kevin Durant to Miami was real, and I can't believe this. I can't believe I'm bringing you guys this video, as again, this feels a bit surreal. I know we didn't land Kevin Durant. I know that wasn't the case. But again, the idea that we had a legitimate chance, and because of really their asking price, that is the only reason Kevin Durant is not in a Miami Heat uniform right now, in exchange for what would have been a disgruntled all-star in Jimmy Butler, which I think would have been absolutely hysterical. Now, we're going to break down this article written by two very, very credible sources, and Romana Shelbourne, as well as Brian Windhorst. Obviously, two of the biggest names surrounding the game of basketball when it comes to being an insider, if you will. Now, they went on to post this tweet, which if you click on the picture of Jimmy Butler making looks like a pass in when Kevin Durant is guarding him. Great photo selection, I should say. It takes you to the article. It's an ESPN article, and I will say this is arguably the best article I have ever read. And the reason I say that is because it covers everything. And I mean legitimately everything for every moving part involved in this story. The Warriors with Steph Curry and trying to rebuild, dating back to a few years ago when they did have the multiple-time scoring champion in Kevin Durant on their team. It breaks down the history between those two parties, as well as what it currently looks like now, going through the NBA trade deadline and then following the NBA trade deadline for all parties involved, including the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler, as well as many others. And again, they just did a phenomenal job breaking down literally every moving part, either past, present, and future, for, again, all the moving parties. So, again, they go on the right. The NBA trade deadline came down to a final table. Warriors, Suns, and Heat. Golden State and Miami chopped up the final pot, ending the Jimmy Butler drama, while the Suns began an entirely new, uncomfortable one with Kevin Durant. Story with Brian Windhorst at ESPN. So, we'll get to the article. We skimmed through a lot of it because, again, it is hefty and it's very, very dense, and which is great. There's a lot of very good information, but for the sake of this video, we skimmed through a lot of it, and we find this quote where it says as follows: Durant, however, would have been open to playing for the Heat, sources said. So Miami debated cutting the Warriors out of the deal and dealing Butler to Phoenix for Durant, sources said. Now, before we get to the next quote, this is awesome. Now, if this would have happened, I would have been ecstatic for more than just one reason. And the reason I say that is this. Now, obviously, I don't have to break down the entirety of the Jimmy Butler situation from start to finish for you guys, as we've done it in depth and very, very much in depth on this channel many, many, many times, dating back to this past offseason when things originally started to really, at least publicly, start to burn. Bridges started to burn during the offseason, at least publicly, this past offseason. The reason I say that is because that is when Jimmy Butler came out, made his contract demands. Obviously, Pat Riley told him, if you're not on the floor, keep your mouth shut. And that's when it started to really feel a little bit dicey between the two parties. Obviously, since that point forward, things started to get more and more chippy as the days went by. Obviously, in the last 2 months, we've seen 3 suspensions handed out to Jimmy Butler before he was eventually traded to the Golden State Warriors. And again, they go through this entire situation in depth in this article. But again, we move on where they go on to say, it was there to be done. Durant to Miami. And the team's traded proposals, sources said. But Phoenix, which paid for Durant in 2023 with 4 first-round picks and 3 pick swaps to Brooklyn, was seeking significant compensation for the player, who is now 36 and under contract for just 1 more season. Ultimately, the Heat felt they would be mortgaging their future by going down the path with Durant. Sources said, and they didn't move forward in the talks. The third attempt to land Durant would not be the charm for Riley and the Heat. So, little bit of context. Durant was with Brooklyn. Phoenix paid an absorbent amount of money to Phoenix or to Brooklyn to land Kevin Durant, as anyone would have to because he's Kevin Durant. He's Kevin Durant. He's Kevin. Like, there's no real, like, he's Kevin Durant. It's that simple. And I know that, Houston, what are you talking? Look at the accolades on the right. Look at the scoring numbers year after year after year after year. He's been doing this a long time. Not a lot has changed. Besides the team he's played for, outside of that, there has not been a lot changing about Kevin Durant and what he gives you on a basketball court. If Miami were able to go out and acquire Kevin Durant in exchange for Jimmy Butler, that would have been the funniest thing to ever happen. And here's why. Kevin Durant and the Miami have been in talks before, twice. Outside of this actual count, twice they have been in talks from what we know publicly. We've obviously failed both of those times. It would have been very intriguing to go out and get Kevin Durant at any point in his career, even now, especially when your disgruntled all-star who has been outright disrespectful to you as well as the rest of this organization in its entirety multiple times, to the point where he's been suspended 3 times in the course of a month and a few days, which is craziness. One of them being indefinitely until he was eventually moved to Golden State. Not only was his goal, and we know this very, very, very much so to be the truth because it has been very public, Jimmy Butler's number one goal was not only to be traded out of Miami, but also to land in Phoenix, Arizona to play alongside his friends in Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Now, if we were to do a swap for Jimmy Butler for Kevin Durant, we'd obviously have to give up a few more assets on top of Jimmy Butler. But the idea of trading one for the other, to have them then swap places and then have Jimmy Butler, who forced his way to Phoenix in order to play alongside Kevin Durant as well as get a contract extension, would have been actually the most just diabolical move by Pat Riley. And I would have been tipping my cap, giving Pat Riley all of the credit in the world just for being petty enough to actually perform a trade like that, while also, outside of just the pettiness and the ability to get back at Jimmy Butler for the level of disrespect he's presented over the last handful of time, you would also make your team significantly better. Now, obviously, I'm here to tell you, and a component of the trade we did make, we're getting those 3 assets in Kyle Anderson, Andrew Wiggins, and Davion Mitchell, as well as the top 10 protected pick from Golden State and the other teams involved in that 3 to 4 team trade at the deadline to move Butler to Golden State. I think that was a great move, and I think we got significantly better because obviously we didn't really have a player in Jimmy Butler, as he wasn't active, he wasn't participating, he wasn't happy, whatever it may have been. Now we have 3 legitimate pieces that could help and be large pieces to this Miami Heat team in a significant way. That goes out the window if Kevin Durant's on the other side of that trade. Kevin Durant, there's no conversation about our half-court offense stalling. There's no conversation about who we play or run our offense through. There's no conversation about where we're going to get another 20, 25 to 28 to 30 points per game, whether it's coming in the starting lineup or off the bench. Obviously, Durant would be a starter without a doubt, but I'm just saying there would be no conversation of where the points are going to be coming from Miami. There's no conversation that we have to rely on our defense so significantly to then convert into points because of the offensive really fallback we have on Kevin Durant. But the point of me saying this and having this conversation is the fact that this was real. And because Pat Riley was just able to be eager enough to go out there and have these conversations, we have to tip our cap. I know a lot of social media rips Pat Riley apart because of the lack thereof that he does. And I'm 100% with you. This past offseason, the only acquisition outside of the NBA draft night that we had was Alec Burks. And I understand that is not going to get the job done, and probably a large piece of the reason why Jimmy Butler wanted to depart so damn bad this offseason, as well as wanting a contract extension, as we all know. But again, if he were able to go out and get Kevin Durant, that would have been going past the moon and landing on Mars. And we have to understand the perspective in all of this. In order to go out and get Kevin Durant, we would have had to give up at least Jimmy Butler, and then we would have to give up a lot of our draft compensation. When I say a lot, I mean the vast majority of the assets we have the capability of actually moving. as well as pieces like Jaquez, who is a young piece, Jovic, who is a young piece, possibly even Terry Rozier, Duncan Robinson, as well as others in order to go out and land one singular player in Kevin Durant, which I understand would move the needle this season. But again, he's only under contract, like Shelbourne as well as Windhorst did mention in this article. He's only under contract for one more season. So again, we would have to then test free agency again with another star player. We'd have to then pay an aging star player, just like the actual situation we're in with Jimmy Butler. Obviously, we'd assume it'd probably go a bit differently in the level of disrespect being presented to the organization, because Kevin Durant would just flat out walk to free agency if not compensated adequately by this Miami Heat team. As again, any team in the NBA would love to have Kevin Durant. He's a multiple time scoring champion, a multiple time all-star. He's been the MVP. He's a walking bucket. Like, it's hard to just fathom how good of a player Kevin Durant really is. And if you go back, I know it's been a while since he's been a leading scorer, or the scoring leader, if you will, in this league, or the scoring champion in this league. But again, 26 and a half a game ain't that bad. 27 and a half ain't that bad, and he is transcendent. He really is. And I know he's getting older, so it's hard to make that argument that he's one of the best players in the world. The kid can score with anybody at any given time, in any given scenario, and again, on any given day. Again, it's mind-numbing to me that there was actually another opportunity for the Heat to go out and attempt to acquire Kevin Durant. I'm glad we didn't just reset our entire team, giving up all of our young assets in order to go out and acquire Durant. I think we did just fine in the trade for Jimmy Butler. I think that we're going to be later or good down the line, and maybe there's a chance. Maybe this offseason we call Phoenix back and say, hey, what are you going to do with Durant? You want to possibly move him off? He only has one more year left on a contract. You want to get rid of him now, get some assets for him before he does walk in free agency? Maybe we reset you guys. Maybe we Rozier, Jovic, Jaquez, a few draft picks. You can't have Khalil Ware, so don't even ask. It ain't happening. Anyone else, though, outside of Bam and Tyler, that's our big three. And we're going to add Durant to it. But again, that's all I got for you guys. Craziness. It really is craziness. The idea that Kevin Durant would have possibly been a Miami Heat player. Again, credit to Pat Riley for even giving us a chance to go out and acquire him, and for actually having real conversations. And I know we don't want to reward for being involved in conversations and not acquiring anyone. That is never fun. That is not what we're in the game to do. But this was a smart business play by Riley and the rest of the organization, not fully resetting this Miami Heat team just for one player when they are so properly rounded out currently with young pieces that could possibly be massive pieces later down the line for this Miami Heat team, or a massive trade package at the end of this year. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys on the next episode of Heat Digest.